What's going on, YouTube? This is Jim and One-Eyed Chloe, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about the PlayStation 4 Neo event that's going to be going on September 7th, 2016 in New York City. Now, I'm holding Chloe because we have a really nasty lightning storm going on outside, but as long as I'm holding her, she seems to be okay, so she's just going to hang out, and we're okay with that. Sophie, the other dog, she's fine. All right, let's get into it. So, PlayStation 4 Neo is upon us. We don't know much about it. We've seen leaked specs. The only thing Sony has officially confirmed is that a new console named codename Neo does exist, and that they would not talk about it during E3. Everything else we've seen is completely open to rumor, speculation, leaked screenshots, whatever. Now, E3 2016 was where we expected to hear something about it, and we did not. Microsoft answered first on what they were doing for the next generation with Scorpio, which seems to be a very robust console. I suspect it's going to cost north of $600, at least based on the technical specifications. And the reason I mention the price specifically is I think that's going to have a big factor in whether or not Neo is a big pop or not. But on top of that, during E3, Microsoft kind of got the last word, even though they did go first for their press conference, and Sony didn't go until that night. Microsoft definitely stole the show in terms of buzz for the next generation. Now, I still maintain that Sony did a better overall E3 press conference, but they did not answer the call when Microsoft did. Some people speculated it's because PlayStation did not expect Microsoft to unveil such a powerful console. Some people felt that the Neo wasn't really going to happen. Nobody really knew for sure, but it is going to be announced now. Now, I've heard rumors that it's not as powerful as people think it is, that it's really nothing more than a glorified VR machine. Again, we're going to find out. Things that concern me, though, I feel that this is very, very concerning for PlayStation owners. I bought into the PlayStation brand after I saw what the Xbox One initial brand message was going to be. Now, to Phil Spencer's credit, he has done an exceptional job of changing the corporate culture of what it means to be an Xbox gamer. Long gone are all the TV shows and entertainment type things, and they've really focused more on games, their first party games, as they said last year. Last year was the greatest lineup in Xbox history. And they've doubled down on a lot of exclusive Xbox One content. Now that they're tying into the PC game world, I think that they've set themselves up in a really good spot. However, I gave up on all that when the Xbox One launched because I was sold on what PlayStation's branding was. Yes, I had a PS3 before, but I was primarily an Xbox 360 user. I was sold on the PlayStation branding, the idea that games come first, that they spent a lot of time with development teams to go through all of the different facets of game development, to understand how to build a strong architecture for developers to use. It's no secret that in general, PlayStation consoles have very odd architectures. So when they said we're scrapping all that and we're going to go and build a PC-like architecture, developers were happy. Happy developers mean really happy gamers because we get the games that we want. And I bought into that culture, and I felt that I wasn't going to be left behind because everybody was on board with the PlayStation message. Now with Neo coming out, I'm not so sure if that's the case anymore. Nintendo has a really nasty habit of doing this. Nintendo likes to make a console. If it sticks, great. If not, throw a new one out in a year or two. The Wii U is a perfect example of that. The new Nintendo 3DS with the right thumbstick. These features and these new systems, these new architectural design decisions didn't really work. And what does Nintendo respond with? Another new console, another new console. They abandon this, they abandon that. And that's Nintendo's kind of been their mantra. And I'm not saying Sony is there yet. I mean, hardly from it. They're still supporting that Vita, which is incredible because that thing just did not take off. However, I'm worried with the Neo that this is a step in the wrong direction. And I think that they really need to consider what they're doing. Now, if you go back and look at any of my videos, any of my history, I've been very adamant against the Neo. I thought it was a very bad decision. I thought it would ultimately segregate the audience for no good reason. Whether or not it's 10 times powerful or 1/10 as powerful is irrelevant. The fact that there is a chance that different gamers will get different experiences on what should be the same generation of consoles is very worrying to me. Yes, of course, if the Neo turns out to be a lot better, I'm sure you'll have some people that will flock. But when you have this mid-generation switch, which is what this seems to be, not powerful enough to be considered the PlayStation 5, you start to wonder, why do I want it? And that's where I worry about. That's why I mentioned price point earlier. That's why I mentioned overall branding, because I'm worried that Sony is really hurting themselves. And if this console turns out to be comparable in price to the PS4, and if they ultimately decide to drop the price of the PS4, most people are probably going to flock to the cheaper console, which means not a lot of people are going to adopt the new system. Is it abandoned? I don't know. Now, on a PC, things scale very differently, but a PC is a very different animal, very different beast. And I think Microsoft is smart for signing up and starting to incorporate their games into Windows. I think they'll find that PC gamers are a lot more loyal in the sense that they're more willing to try new games because the various ranges of hardware support various experiences. And on the console side, people seem to kind of be more about the latest and greatest stuff. I know I'm guilty of it. When the PS4 came out, you could have practically thrown my PS3 in the garbage can because I want the new graphics. I want the new experiences. I want everything to look pretty and fun and new. I don't want to be stuck in the last generation. And I feel a lot of people are going to be that way, and we're going to come to this crossroad, the haves and the have-nots. Now, I already went out and bought the PlayStation 4 Destiny Edition. Actually, my wife did. And it did come with some minor upgrades. The buttons were actual buttons on the front instead of that flat kind of touchscreen thing. They changed a little bit of the guts, maybe made the cooling a little, the fans a little quieter, the cooling a little bit better. But this wasn't branded as a new console. This was just a revamp of the existing SKU. As a matter of fact, most people probably don't even know that the PS4 underwent this change because it's a PS4 is a PS4. It's not like the Xbox One and the Xbox One S where you have a different form factor. You have new hardware. You have new processing speed, that sort of thing. As minimal as it may be, and that really does matter. So I worry about going into all this as a PlayStation 4 owner, as a Sony pony, as it were, to make sure that, you know, we're keeping the brand together and we're keeping strong. And I feel that this is going to be they're very divisive. The price is going to obviously have to be different than the PS4 because it's a different experience. You're going to have two different types of games now if they do ultimately code more for the PS4. Now, if this turns out to be nothing more than a VR processing box, it may promise absolutely no gains at all whatsoever between the PS4 experience and the PS4 Neo experience, other than maybe VR runs a little bit smoother, which I don't know how you're going to segregate that sort of power and dedicate it just to VR. But if that is the only thing it does, I think, one, I'm a little bit relieved in the sense that Sony has realized that they don't want to separate their audience. But two, I'm going to wonder, why are they even doing this? VR is very unfounded. I'm still not really a believer in VR. I've kind of waffled a little bit that I think it could be cool. It could be kind of neat. But the more and more I see the technology kind of develop, the less and less I see anything actually happening. I think back to what the original Wii controller offered. A bowling game. And people are like, wow, if you can make bowling, what else can you make? Well, as it turns out, not a whole hell of a lot. There aren't very memorable Wii games that use the Wiimote in a very exciting, unique way. When Nintendo tasked industry with making creative, fun experiences for the Wii, they really didn't deliver. And that's why the Wii didn't do that well after the hype of the initial sales and the initial games that launched with it, because there wasn't anything that you had to have for the Wii. And in a similar fashion, if the PlayStation 4 Neo does go the route of VR and VR turns to be a flop, which I think it's going to be, it has not been successful on PC gaming. I want to be very clear on that. It has been around on PC gaming for quite some time. It is not successful on PC gaming. A very, very small amount of people own it on PC gaming. So historically, it does not work. If it does not work on the PlayStation 4, which I suspect it will not, you're going to have these very gimmicky Batman one-off experiences instead of entire games and entire worlds to sink your life into, I think that they're going to be having a problem that they kind of signed up for this. And why would Sony do this to themselves? So as a fan, I'm very worried. I don't really see what can come out of this event that's going to be good, except for maybe adopters of or late adopters. I'm sure the original PS4 price will go down in sake for the new Neo coming out. But short of that, I feel it's going to force people to upgrade. The hardcore people are going to want the best graphics. And the people who are stuck in the middle are going to end up wondering, what are they trying to sell us? And Microsoft's going to have the same problem when they actually start showing off the Scorpio in play. Now you're going to start to wonder, what experience are you seeing? I mean, you look at a game like Watch Dogs, and Ubisoft is notorious for this. This is a perfect example. Look at a game like Watch Dogs, and look at how they advertised the game. Look at how pretty the graphics were. Look at how pretty the gameplay was. And then when you got into the game, guess what? It was not what you thought it was. Not even on the PC version. And I'm not talking about console parity. I'm talking just about the fact that they hype up the trailer to deliver unrealistic expectations. Now, think about that. And that is on the same generation. That is, we're talking, this game is shown on a PS4 and you deliver for PS4 and it doesn't look like what you thought it would. Imagine that now with two consoles of varying power. How much more of a shift are we going to see from the awesome E3 trailer to the game you get in your house that happens to be running on your base PS4, not even the Neo or not even the Scorpion? Think of how different that console experience is going to be. Think about how much harder it's going to be on developers to try to sell you on why you need to stay with the old thing, and how much harder it's going to be on developers to not lie to you, because it's going to happen the first time. The next E3, everything's going to look lifelike. We're going to walk right into our TV screens because we're going to forget that we're watching TV. It's going to be real life. Everything's going to be glorious. And then when the games start launching, when the experiences start coming out, and they're not the same, and they will not be the same, that's when things are going to go south very quickly. And I worry about that for gamers because we've finally gotten into a good rhythm. PlayStation started off early, as I mentioned, with a lot of brand loyalty and a lot of brand trust, and it made people like me buy into what PlayStation was selling. Phil Spencer took a very damaged Microsoft brand, did a complete 180, and made it a very powerful contender. And I worry that this separation is going to ultimately hurt all the goodwill that was done. Now, I know I kind of bounced back and forth between PlayStation and Xbox, but obviously with the PlayStation announcement coming, this is going to be the first, I don't know if it's going to be first to market. This is going to be the first real, other than the sizzler reel we had on Scorpio, the first real time we're probably going to see this thing in action, or at least get a much better understanding of it. It's its own separate event. It's not glommed on the end of an E3, and nothing to take away from Microsoft at all. That Scorpion thing had everybody very excited. But this is going to be a standalone event, and unless they come out on stage and say, we're not doing it, or it's a 5-minute conference, which I hope it's not, because that's going to be ill will as well, get everybody all riled up for absolutely nothing. We're going to be talking about this soon, and there's a really good chance we could be seeing this even sooner and understanding what it is and understanding how it works. So I caution people, and I caution PlayStation, be very careful where you're treading, because when you start dividing, that's when the other person starts conquering. So keep that in mind as you watch this coverage. It's about a month away now, but I will be talking about it definitely after it comes out. Expect me to give you guys my full reaction. I'll be doing other videos between then, but I've been hearing a lot more talk about it now that the date has actually been announced. I think it's worth mentioning again because, like I said, I haven't really talked about it in a while. So for me and Chloe, who is way over contrast, she's definitely not this white, we're going to go try to survive this lightning storm. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to get off my soapbox now, and until next time, we will see you guys on the other side.